So we are currently without any electricity or internet here in East Tennessee. The power has been out pretty much all day. We've had a lot of high winds. The trees around me are just bending double. There's one down the road. There's a power line down the road, and they're all over town. Places of business are closed. Things are getting pretty rough here. But me and my family are safe, and I want to let everyone know that we are. And I hope everyone on the East Coast is staying safe and hunkering down because I don't know what it's doing where you're at, but we're mainly just getting the wind off everything. Every now and then a rain shower will rush through, but for the most part, it's just wind and a lot of tree limbs and trees falling. So everyone try to stay safe out there. But you know, I am so used to getting up every day and starting on making my content that I was just sitting there going, what am I to do with my life now? And so I've got a little cover on my porch here. I can sit on this one and talk to you, and we can talk about one of Trump's latest grifts. And folks, he's amping it up. The closer we get to the election, I believe he realizes he's beat, and he's just going for it. And he's going to see just how gullible people are. And so he is now selling gold wristwatches for the whopping price of $100,000. Now, every time I see these kind of grifts, every time I see them, I picture people in my part of the world, and I think about the arguments that they've been making to me for years. People in my part of the world cannot stand the idea of minimum wage going up because someone else might get a shot in life and it might hurt them. They think it'll hurt them. So we can't raise the minimum wage from $7.25. It's 2024. And people in my part of the world still think $7.25 is too much. And if you point out that it needs to be raised, well, it's going to take away from me. It'll hurt me if that happens. Not realizing that if working people makes money, they spend money. These same people gets upset over people on government assistance. When the truth is, most of them in their family, they have people in their family who are on government assistance. They themselves, a lot of times, are on government assistance, but they will never tell you that. They demonize anyone that is. And they'll sit and say things. I've heard these cliches till I'm so sick of hearing them. They'll say things like, well, I seen that guy using an EBT card. He had a new tattoo. Now, how could he afford a tattoo? If he can afford a tattoo, he can afford to buy his groceries. And what's he doing holding that cell phone? And what's he doing buying beer and cigarettes if he's got that EBT card? He got money to buy beer and cigarettes? Why ain't he going? That's just all I hear. And these same people are sitting back watching a guy attempt to sell them a watch for $100,000. So let me just flip the script on them for a minute and say, if inflation is so bad and the economy is so bad and Americans can't afford to buy eggs and Americans can't afford to go to the grocery store and Americans can't afford to live, why do you support a man who's trying to grift a watch for $100,000? What sense does that make? And they'll say stuff like, he didn't even take a salary when he was in office. I mean, he was a good guy. He loved this country. He didn't have to take a salary. He was making money hand over fist, and people are dumb enough to buy his crappy, shitty merch. He's selling coins, and what was that? I can't remember. Was it like $90 for a freaking coin? He's sold sneakers. He's sold Bibles. I mean, and selling the Bible really baffles me because most of the churches in my part of the world give those away. Most of them will give you a Bible, and I've heard so many people in my part of the world criticize anyone that charges for a Bible. And so they're okay with that, though. That's cool. And they wonder why that we sit back and call them hypocrites. They wonder why that we sit back and say, you know what? Your way of thinking just doesn't add up. Your way of thinking makes no sense whatsoever. That you would sit here and tell us how bad the world is and how Americans can't afford groceries. Vance loves to say that. J.D. Vance loves to say that more than anything. Americans can't afford to buy food, but buy my front runner's crappy watch for $100,000. No one in my part of the world can afford that. No one's going to buy that. No one in my part of the world is going to have that watch. And no one in my part of the world, I've not seen any of them with the gold sneakers on. I don't hang around them, so I don't know if they got one of the Bibles laying on the coffee table, but if they would really dust it off, the one they do have, if they would dust it off and read it, they would learn about grifters. Jesus talks a lot about it. As a matter of fact, the only time that Jesus ever did an act of violence, according to the Bible, was when he went into the temple to turn over the money changers, and he said, "My Father's house was supposed to be a house of worship, and you have turned it into a den of thieves." So I imagine if Jesus Christ came back today and looked around and he saw the MAGA party and their attitude toward people who are trying to seek refuge and make a better way for themselves. I mean, he is the guy that told us to take people in and to clothe them and feed them and give them something to drink. He's that guy. I don't ever remember him saying drug test them first. I don't ever remember him. I don't ever remember him saying to get them out, to run them out of here. They're poisoning our blood. They're the enemy of our people. I read the Bible my entire life. I still do to this day, as a matter of fact, and I can't find any scripture where Jesus says any of the things that Donald Trump is saying. So the fact that they can sit here now and just sit back, and they'll go quiet on this one. You won't see them really share the watch post because they know it's ridiculous, but they won't call it out for the bullshit that it is. They won't call bullshit on it. They'll call bullshit on the price of eggs. And they'll sit there and watch a guy like J.D. Vance stand in front of eggs and say that they're $4 for a dozen while he holds 2 dozen and the sign behind him says $2.99. And when you point that out, they get more upset at you for pointing it out than they do for Vance and Trump for grifting and lying to them and bullshitting them. And it's because they have been taught to believe that Democrats are the scum of the earth. That's just it. They really are. They're taught to believe that Democrats are the absolute worst. But if you hold up Democratic policies and what Democrats stand for and fight for, if you hold that up, and then you hold up what MAGA stands for, and then you go right down the middle and read the teachings of Jesus, none of the teachings of Jesus leans toward Trump at all. There's nothing. There's nothing there. And there's no scripture, there's no prophecy for anyone like Trump to come along and save Christianity. There's no prophecy that he's going to restore it. There's no prophecy that the government is going to restore Christianity. Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's." So they don't even have an argument in my mind. And that's why I get people all the time message me and they'll say, "Hey man, I'd love to sit down and debate you, man. I'd take you to school." And I'm like, you don't have an argument. Okay, so if we're going to have a debate, you first have to come up with an argument, because I'm not trying to be cocky here, but I would absolutely destroy you and embarrass you. You would go home and you probably wouldn't get laid for a long time because your wife would be too embarrassed. So when you can cook up an argument and when you can show me scriptures in your book that tells us how that Trump aligns with Jesus Christ, let me know. But until then, you might want to just set this one out. You really might. It's so ridiculous to me, but what it is, he realizes that the walls are closing in and he's going to grift. He will be out there selling anything he can at this point. And I predict after it's over, he'll still be trying to grift stuff. He'll still be trying to sell stuff. He'll still be trying to, you can have this commemorative moment. He'll still be latching on to that because that's all he knows. He doesn't know how to work for a living. He never has. He's never worked an honest day in his life. This is a guy who has never worked an honest day in his life. And he's got people who have worked honest days in their lives. I'm not saying that the people in my part of the world don't struggle. I know they do. I know they work hard. I know they really try hard to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and that's why it gets under my skin that they would look to this spoiled, pampered, rich billionaire that doesn't have one callus on his hands or never sweated a day in his life to earn his money, that they will sit back and think he's their leader and he has their best interest at heart. And then another thing, before the rain blows me off the porch here, they'll say, "Well, Kamala needs to explain things better, man. She just needs to explain her policies better. I really think she should explain it better." Donald Trump has never explained himself, and he's never delivered any of his promises. He has concepts of a plan. He has concepts of a plan. But if you will stop, pump the brakes, listen to Kamala Harris, listen to Tim Walz, listen to anybody that's on the left side of the aisle, you'll realize that we're not demons, we're not demonic, we're not possessed, the devil's not in us, none of those things are real. That's things that you were taught to keep yourself living under their control. If they can have you scared of everybody, they can control you. And they can dupe you into buying a watch that you can't afford. So I hope everyone stays safe wherever you are. Like I said, it kind of comes and goes here. The rain comes and goes, but I was just sitting out here on my little covered porch and thought, I'm so used to making content at this time of day, I can't help it. I had some people say to me, "Brando, don't worry about it. We'll wait." I know, but I love you guys and I appreciate you so much for what you do. And the truth of the matter is, folks, it may not sound like it sometimes, but I love the people in my part of the world and I truly care about them. And I hate seeing them duped by such a ridiculous spoiled grifter. It just really, that's why I can't stop talking about it. That's why that this is the hill I chose to die on. But I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in every day and supporting what I do, and tuning in even when, you know, we're about to be blown away here in East Tennessee. Everybody just take cover, stay safe, especially you guys that are closer to the East Coast and closer to the hurricanes. You guys just stay safe and let us know that you're safe. Mark yourself as safe. And if you haven't already, be sure and hit that subscribe button here on the channel. That way you'll be notified when I finally do get around to making some videos. So everybody stay safe, have a great weekend, and I love y'all. Take care of yourself.